I'm interested in, I've heard a lot now about like pre and post nups. Are they, or and nups, I mean nuptial agreements for everybody listening. I've heard that they also kind of put a downer, they're a bit unromantic. What's your professional take on that?
So being a divorce attorney, I think anytime you can have a conversation prior to marriage about, finances, and how you want to structure things is ideal. If nothing else, it's opening up a conversation on how you want to structure finances going forward. I think of prenups and postnuptial agreements as really an insurance policy. You have no expectation that a divorce is going to happen in the future, but in that event, you're basically pre-planning how things are going to happen so that you don't get into a long litigation battle in the future.
Yeah, so definitely necessary. And I guess I guess you can view it as romantic if you think, listen, I care enough about you to deal with this
Right.
beforehand. Give us, if you will, because I always want to, leave our audience with tips and things that they can use right now. If they are considering the collaborative process, now that you've given us, the foundation, you've described what it is, what are 3 tips for folks in that scenario?
So the first would be trust the process. It's unique. It's different than what, most people expect. And it's customizable based on what the parties need, but parties really need to trust the process and the professionals. The second would be to utilize the full team. So you have all of those professionals at your fingertips. Really use them for their area of expertise so that, you're working with the mental health professionals in crafting that parenting plan and not using attorneys to do that because, the mental health professionals are the experts in that world. And then the third would be not to try to win negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
It really is trying to hear the interests and goals of both parties and trying to meet them, and sometimes very creatively.
Sometimes I imagine, before I ask you the next question, sometimes it's hard for people to make that mental shift from what is traditionally, an adversarial climate, kind of a gladiators in the, in the ring, kind of thing, to actually sitting down and saying, we're going to work through this together.
Right.
It requires a lot of vulnerability, I guess. And as you said, trusting the process. What are some 3 tips that you could share for people going through mediation?
One would be to hire an experienced divorce mediator, someone who's done it a number of times. While a mediator cannot give either party legal advice, they can give you information about what has worked for other people, other families. They have likely done, gone through this process many more times than the parties have and can give, direction. The second is to gather necessary documentation or information so that you know how much is left on the mortgage, how much each party has in their retirement accounts, how assets are potentially titled. Those are important things. And then the third would be to be willing to compromise.
That's a toughie, I'm sure. Yeah. And whether you're going through mediation or not, that disclosure of assets, that's required no matter what. If you're going through a divorce, right? Through the initial disclosure, disclosures that need to be made.
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful because you can't reach an agreement unless you have the information. You want an agreement to everybody entering into an agreement to do so with informed consent. So, knowing what the assets are is going to make that agreement even more durable.